All right, hello and welcome everyone to Santa Rosa Zine Fest 2020. The Sonoma County Library is thrilled to be partnering with the volunteer collective SRZF to bring you this virtual Zine Fest. Before we introduce our panelists, I just want to go over some quick things about Zoom and kind of how this session will run. So first of all, if you have questions, if you could please use the Q&A feature, which you can find on the bar at the bottom. If you can feel free to use the chat to talk amongst yourselves and chat, but we would, if you have a question that you would like to have answered, please use the Q&A. If you ask it in the chat, we may not get to it. Also, we do have Spanish interpretation available. So if you click on interpretation at the bottom of your screen in the lower right corner, you should be able to select Spanish if you would like the Spanish interpretation. And all of the sessions will be posted on the Sonoma County Library YouTube channel within a few days of the event. And for more information, more virtual events and other information about Sonoma County Library services, please do visit our website at sonomalibrary.org. And I'm very happy to turn things over to Melissa from SRZF, and she is going to introduce our fabulous panelists. Thank you so much for coming.
Hello, my name is Melissa Andrade, and I'm part of the SRZF collective, and I am so excited to introduce the next two creators. They are two of some of my favorite artists and overall just incredible human beings. I'm start with Amanda Ayala. Amanda Ayala is a Chicana indigenous woman who was born and raised in Santa Rosa. She has ancestral roots in Sonora, Jalisco, and Michoacan, Mexico. She has worked extensively with her community to create spaces of refuge for creativity, connection, and healing. She enjoys painting and facilitates workshops on art, ancestral connection, and social justice. She uses creativity as a way to communicate and envision a future centered on Indigenous teaching. Amanda is, I think, Tara, we're getting some feedback.
Oh, sorry about that.
Amanda is inspired by her family, ancestors, and animas, bright, watery colors, being with large groups of people who move together, and the 7 organizational principles of EZLN and CNI. So that's a little bit about the fabulous Amanda. And next I will introduce RJ Simon. RJ is a doodle dreamer. RJ has been drawing since he was very small, with early influences of magical girl animes, horror movies, and kung fu. Who doesn't love big action and bright colors? RJ's classical training is in oil and acrylics, but is still heavily leaning towards the graphic novel spectrum of creating. RJ is so stoked to use zines to get these exciting pictures out of his brains and share with friends faster, and I am looking forward to seeing those zines. I'm sure they're going to be amazing. So without further ado, RJ and Amanda.
Hi.
Hey, RJ, nice to see you.
Yeah, wow, finally. It's been a long time coming.
It definitely has. And hello, everyone here who joined us. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, so did we talk pronouns already? I use he, him, they, them, and beefcake. Very partial to that one. It's very fun, very playful, very real to me. And you use she, her?
Yes, she, her.
Okay, perfect. Good to know. So yeah, we talked at length basically only one time, right? but it was magical. Because I feel like we're really similar in like why we make art, which is kind of rare. Like there's so many different ways to begin an artist process. Like you have to kind of decide, do you want fans? Do you just want to play with stuff? And yeah, I don't know if we're similar ages, but I feel like, wow, we pretty much connected immediately about just using stuff, touching stuff, getting to play with things.
Yeah, we definitely did. It was great. I would love to hear a little bit about like what inspires your art and how you start your creating, and maybe we can go into
Um,
like our tools. Like, what do we use?
yeah. Okay. So I wrote a list because I forget. Um, I use pencils, pens, markers, crayons. Um, I do use paint because I was trained to use paint, but that's just because that supposedly legitimizes the process for teachers and such. Um, Paper folding sometimes, and then recently I've been really into digital just because it's cleaner. I don't have to like hoard thousands of art supplies to get similar results with
Yeah,
color and stuff.
cool. Yeah, I love my favorite right now, and it has been for a while, is watercolors. I love watercolors because I can take it anywhere I go. And so I usually have like my bag, and then I'll have some watercolors in there and like a teeny tiny sketchbook that I made. I'm gonna show you. Like sometimes I'll like put watercolor in these little Altoid tins. You see, and it's like a lot of
It's my
color.
small.
Yeah, yeah, and so I can like I can have like all my art supplies in like a little bag like that size, which is
How
awesome.
big is your sketchbook? Just curious.
My sketchbook right now, the most recent one is 4 by 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I
I have
like
a
to
friend
have it so I can
who
put it
really
in a
weird
bag.
ones.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite people are the ones that like to work on rectangles that are just really absurd,
Mhm.
just like peephole sized viewing windows.
Mhm.
Um, I had friends in high school that used to work on exclusively paper bags from grocery stores, which doesn't last as long. I'll admit that. Um, but yeah, I think it's really helpful to have a lot of different like surface areas so you don't get like tripped up on the like 8 by 11 standard size for sure.
Definitely, and like you can use so many things to paint on. And like that's the cool thing about technology is that you can make something that'll disintegrate the next day, but if you get to snap a picture of it, like it can last a very long time too.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of why I was thinking that I was going to try and angle more into zine making. I think my grandmother sent me a message asking about this event and maybe does not know what a zine is. So just to catch people up if they're not super into it. There's this like history of people putting together their most potent thoughts, their like most interesting stewing emotional pangs into very tiny little books and being able to distribute those for what do you call it, ads for shows, for political unrest, for sometimes they were just the equivalent of love notes, you know. And it can be whatever people want it to be, but what's cool about them is that they're bite-sized and you can put them in your pocket, you could put them in your purse, forget about them for months, pick them up again and go, oh, this person's potent, you know, most important life force is in these like tiny 6 little page booklets. Um, and because people usually made them on scratch paper, Xeroxed them and made thousands, um, they weren't archival or anything, but they were super easy to redistribute and continue to make more of them and share them with people. So it was like a community infusing project that became really political and is still to this day, but people kind of like the trendy part of it now and just kind of, you know, want to put together cute things and have fans. And I love that. but I'm always riding that fence, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think the cool thing about zines is too, like, you don't have to go through someone else and get someone's permission, like, to be printed, to be published, because that's a thing, right? Like, there's a process in publishing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a long process, and it takes resources. And when you have the ability to just like create something yourself and publish it yourself, and like it's really I feel like liberating, like it frees you. And there's not as much pressure. Like you can have fun with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll show you like a little zine that I made. Um it's like this is called an 8-page zine. So it's small, it like fits in my hand, and um this is like just one piece of paper. I love this style because it's just like one piece of paper. Let me turn off my background so you can see this, right? 'Cause you're gonna get like a magical effect, which is cool. But and then like on the inside of it, you can like hide like something. So like I drew like an image of an altar, and then like this like doodle that I did. So yeah,
There.
if any of our participants is like interested in making this, it's called an 8-page zine. I know that they're gonna have a zine making workshop later, but it's super fun and easy. And I think that too, like this type of creating, like it's really catching on. Like there was a poet in San Francisco, and he works at a bookstore out there called City Lights, and they asked me if they could sell my zine there, and I was like, wait, it's like not like a real book. And they're like, no, we have a zine section, it's really important and people really love it. And so I think that that's really great too, that you can like there's more locations that really respect people's art that they're making themselves, and it doesn't have to be like a lot of money to create it, you know.
Yeah, no money at all to create it, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we were talking a little bit about like how capitalism kind of warps like the kind of art people are allowed to make, feel confident that they should be making. Um, and I don't know if you want to talk about that first or whatever, but yeah, I've been really thinking about my attachment to making things on nice paper, specifically so that they can be products that can be sold versus just like making things because I'm in the moment and I enjoy it and it feels good, which can happen on a napkin or whatever. I think a lot of people like psych themselves out and are under the impression that they're not artists because the work that they make can't or they think shouldn't be bound in a book and preserved in a museum, and it's entirely fictional. So weird.
Definitely, like, I think that, like, like, quality of the materials that you're using, like, certain people have access to those, right? Like, I went to, Veracruz in Mexico last year, and I went to this cool place where they were like, "Yeah, like, we're printers, but we couldn't afford the paper, we couldn't afford the stone that we had to use to print," and they, like, figured out how to source everything from their region and not have to like ship everything in from Europe because that's like where that printing style came from. And it was like super inspiring to me too because like I think everyone's art is important. Like every single human being is creative, like inherently. And like I'm hoping we have like a lot of young people on this Zoom webinar because young people know like they have like this ability to like interact with their creativity and their imagination. As we get older, like sometimes it's more difficult. We've been hurt in different ways, and I think that it's super helpful to just understand that like everyone's art and whatever you make is like really really important. And one thing that we can do is we can use materials that last a long time, you know, and because everyone's deserving of that. Like we all, not just certain people should have their, you know, art in like a museum, you know.
Exactly. And like part of what has been really important in my decolonizing of my art journey was realizing that there is a tradition of making art in other cultures that is literally just about being in community. Like you just go out and you paint the walls colors because obviously people like to look at that. everyone wants to do that. The culture around being a muralist in this area, I'm just using that as an example. It doesn't really matter, but I realized that I was feeling kind of weird about being called a lead muralist when it was like, in essence, just like the person who has the paint buckets. Like everyone's got paint buckets. And like getting involved with kids in my community, just having access to paintbrushes doesn't like put me above or below anybody else. And I really want to, I want to make art and see art in more places than just where it's supposed to be funky and cool. Why aren't banks decorated? Why are grocery stores only decorated in ways that are supposed to help you like spend money? Why are we only using certain colors to enforce capitalism when indeed I actually just like to play with colors? And like, yeah, I wonder if people are thinking about separating themselves from making money when they are thinking about making art in general, because it is just so much more important to feed your soul. And my tools, in particularly me, my tools are my best friends. They're my wands. That's how I put down intention. It's how I get out stress. And when I'm thinking too much about making money and making a product that needs to be finished, it's like somebody is holding my wand hands and is like making me do things that maybe it'll come out nice, maybe it'll be good, but it's not my magic, you know. So yeah, that is a reason why I'm thinking like, nix it, make it really fast, send it to your friends, give it to a stranger on the street corner, just let them have it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm a sucker for like creating something and then just like moving on to the next thing, because I can get like really obsessed about one piece of art, which is great, but I'm trying not my new thing is like I'm trying not to make things super precious, and like be like, oh, this is so, important. It's like good to be able to let things go, and also just like in terms of like thinking about making money with your art, like that does change like for me, I've noticed how it changes the way that I create, there's like a pressure that's involved there. And that's why I love like I have these um like journals that I've been sewing together. I don't know if you see, I just want to show you the details.
Yes, I love that weaving work. Yes.
Yeah, this one is like has like black paper and white paper, and I know you can make them.
One.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video by Pagan Awe, and they show you how to like make these really cool little sketchbooks. And I think too, like sometimes in my painting, in my sketchbooks, what I'll do is I'll just like really play with color, and like play with paints and see what I like, and then like I'll be like, oh, those two colors look really cool together. Like, what can I do with that? And then there's I really like working with stickers and just like different little things. And
you've got a lot of really pretty animal portraits in yours. Now I'm jealous. I'm looking at my sketchbook. Like,
I want to see some of your art.
I have some, but like mostly when I'm trying to, because when I draw, it has a lot more to do with like syncing up my brain and my hands. Just like, you're thinking too much. Slow down. I do mostly like these kind of like random colory, sprawly kind of doodles, high school doodles. People like to draw eyes a lot. They'll tell you, oh, I've always liked to draw eyes, but it's just kind of it's a circle. It's you're just practicing drawing circles. Well, someone's asking me if I can show pages longer, but I don't like that one enough to show it for you longer, so I'm gonna have to skip to this one. Can you see this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so pen stresses me out because it is so permanent feeling. But also it can be on pieces of paper. that are garbage. And now that I know that, I'm gonna stop being weird about it. Digital is really cool because I can just control Z and all of the things that I don't like just kind of disappear, which is like the cop out that a lot of digital artists are really impressed with. So yeah, when I have a really good idea, I think my steps now are just to like try it out with different wands, because I've just compared them to being a magician of sorts. If I'm using crayons spread differently than colored pencils, and colored pencils obviously spread differently than oil pastels. And sometimes my ideas are potent enough that they're too big for one type of media. And I want to try it multiple different ways and then, extrapolate on that. And it feels weird to share with people when I think that the idea isn't fleshed out enough. If it's not getting to a finished idea, maybe it's not worth sharing yet, but obviously that doesn't work out for everybody. I have an entire folder full of drawings that I did not share with my friends that I would like to share with people today if people are interested in that. And then some paintings and drawings that I've done in my lifetime that I decided weren't done enough. I am remastering now that I'm like slightly more confident in my ability and I have more of a relationship with my tools. So if people are interested in that, you can definitely check out my Instagram, rubrics_art. And I'm going to be updating my Facebook, which I believe right now is also RJS Art, RJ Simon, something or other. And yeah, maybe I also have another sketchbook in here with some doodles. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about.
Oh,
Like, what were you talking about?
RJ, on my end, it looks like you froze a little bit, but it might be my internet.
Oh no, what was the last thing I said? It says my internet connection's unstable. I've
Okay.
been called out.
Okay, cool. I can see you now, though. You're a tiny bit pixelated, but you're getting clearer and clearer.
Ah, good, good, good. Smile.
Yeah, there you go.
Ah. Yeah, so I was wondering, can you talk to me a little bit more about like your ancestral work that you've been doing in art? Because I am also kind of on that journey and I would like to talk about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked. I've been well, it was just this last couple months is like a time when um in different parts of like Mesoamerica, there's like this is the time when the spirits, or it just is like actually ending, when the spirits of your loved ones who have passed on can come back and visit you.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of is represented in different holidays and different cultures all around the world. And and like when I'm creating my art, I do really constantly like to think about just like the people that have come before me in my life, and have supported the people in my life, like family members and loved ones, and so I did this new. I saw this like meme because memes are a thing now. I saw this meme and it talked about like, oh, like you have two like biological parents, right, and then you have four great grandparents, and then eight, and it like it doubles each generation. And so I did this painting of I drew it out and I was like, oh, it looks like a rainbow. And I was like, oh, I want to make it into a circle. So I drew it out. And so this is 7 generations of just biological parents. This isn't like chosen family and like all these other, like we all have so many people in our lives that have like contributed to our lives. So if you look at that very center circle, see how it's like split in two? That's like two biological parents, and then each piece has two coming off of it, and that would be theirs. And this is just like the minimum like of ancestry, right? Like a teeny portion. And also I like to acknowledge that like not everyone knows their ancestors, like people who have been targeted with genocide, you know, people who have been targeted in certain ways, like our stories get lost. Um, and there's a lot of shame in that. People who are adopted, you know, like not everyone has that privilege of being able to know your lineage. And so I really like got excited about this image because it felt like it was like a way to represent it like with math.
Yeah.
And so that you like even if you don't know the people, just like knowing the sheer numbers of like lives that contributed to yours was like super inspiring to me. And day of like the day before Day of the Dead, I like had this idea pop into my head, and my niece Lulu, who's probably listening right now, like gave me the most amazing advice. She's like, if you have an idea, just do it. Don't wait, just do it. And I'm like, okay.
Exactly.
So I did. I went to the store and I found like a flat pillow and I made an ancestor pillow that I could hug.
I'm
And
such a big fan of plush art. We
yeah.
need so much more of it, honestly.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I've been thinking about in just terms of ancestry. Like most recently, that's been like a project. I've been painting the image everywhere and have all this other pieces of wood and things that I want to paint it on. So
I'm sad that I can't touch those things with you right now. Um,
you have a pillow,
so
just grab a pillow and imagine.
just grab it. I got a shark in here somewhere.
Or like, yes, yes to the shark.
Yes, yes, shark. This is also art. All 3D forms are doing God's work. Okay, so this is this is what's been upsetting for me. I love making art, right? But I also make my art really quietly, make it by myself usually. I overthink about whether or not I want to share that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But there's something really powerful about a freestanding art piece that you can wear and you can continue to keep with you. And I have been doing a whole lot of thinking, research, um, just editing of my own interpretations of like African mask work
Mhm.
because I personally love them. Like I love the idea of them that you step into an embodiment that has a purpose, has power, get a job done, your community is recognizing you like, oh, this person is in the regalia right now. Everybody clap, dance. Yes, they're doing it. Um, and then also the actual craftsmanship of these things, centuries old, so old. In museums right now, nobody's wearing them. They should be, they could be, obviously, because these materials were made, what, out of like bronze, metal, reeds, things that are renewable and things that like are also part of the earth.
Mhm.
um, I can imagine they're just really fun to touch,
Yes.
um, especially the ones that have like I don't know if you've seen these things, but they also do a lot of like textured headpieces that I think some people assumed were not part of their bodies. I think that they are meant to represent braids, that they were hairstyles that people were doing. So like hair art, another 3D art form placed on top of the mystique of mask work. And then on top of that, somebody put together an entire outfit. Like fashion used to be spirituality. What? Why are we not doing this? So like I I am kind of working on my own interpretation. If I was to do a graphic novel or a zine right now, it would be about that. It would be about mass embodying alternative selves and community. I did a painting actually last night for this event that I would like to show you guys, but I'd have to figure out how to screen share. So hold on, maybe if it works. Let me see it.
Yeah, I think as you're doing that, let's see. Oh, are you here it goes. I'm
Is it
excited.
there?
It says, yes, I see it.
Yeah,
There we are.
this is a cutie.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
This one's called Ancestral Check Check. This is just all of the colorful beings that would hover over you and see if you're okay.
Yeah.
When I lay down in my bed sometimes and stare up at the ceiling, I'm kind of like,
Mhm.
well, like while I'm laying here, I'm wasting time. People are thinking about all the things that I could be accomplishing right now, and I'm thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. And then I think, no, maybe whatever beings that exist out in the world or in this room right now are just really excited to like see me at peace, resting. So I like I did this doodle of like what I imagine all of these like weird beings might have looked like. Um, and I used a lot of color because I don't understand a world where people don't wear color all the time. Let me see. Do I have my mass? Stop share.
I love that. I love that doodle that you did. It reminds me of, I remember I had a friend and she was gonna go into surgery and she was super scared about it. And I told her, I said, before you go into surgery, just like imagine all your ancestors there with you and like ask them to come and they will come. And she was like, yeah, I did it. And I think it worked. It felt really good.
Is it here?
And also like
Yeah, so I also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
you're good.
I
Oh,
just wanted to show you some of these masks because they're really pretty.
oh,
This is the one I was like, this is definitely a hairstyle. Somebody's just got the most beautiful braids right now.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Bronze casting? Wood, sometimes carved by hand?
Hmm.
Absurd.
So beautiful. Like so beautiful.
Is that all for now? I think it is.
I really like the thinking about masks and wearing them, and you were talking about embodiment and like I know that sometimes when people put on regalia or put on like a mask for ceremony, like you're embodying that energy, and it's actually there's like a responsibility that's included with it. It's not like some things are like for fun, but then also there's like intention behind it, and a community that I kind of look to for inspiration often is the Zapatista community in Chiapas, Mexico. They're an indigenous community who lives autonomously and they're anti-capitalist, feminist, like indigenous amazing community who do a lot of work. Yeah, and one of the things that happens in that community is that there's roles that people take on. And so sometimes there will be a person and the person will have a name and then like a couple weeks later there will be another person has the same exact name because they're embodying that person that was there. So there's like a responsibility in the way that you act when you're in that role. It's kind of like having a position, right? And so yeah, just thinking about how intentional and thoughtful our ancestors were with these pieces of art and these creations that they create that they made, and a lot of it was to support like the whole community and the land and the elements and like it was like a lot of like there was individual people who created, but it was like for collective work. It's like for the whole community, for the whole world, for the whole universe, you know.
Um, I'm glad that you said that because there is a level of cognitive dissonance that I have about wanting to be part of the art world as a Black person, um, because I know that the art world, the way that it's set up is actually like super colonized, mostly about money, is actually about separating yourself from your community with a skill set that is supposed to be highly specialized and sophisticated. And I wanted to be all of those things when I was a young, you know, child who was struggling with identity and wanting to be, accepted by the people who I thought were going to continue to fund my dreams and help me get ahead in life, right? In a community that is not awful. People do that whether you prove you're sophisticated or not. And it has a lot more to do with just kind of being around people and continuing to work with them and yeah, embodying the best possible versions of yourself for your folks. But I don't really have access to the Black community, to my ancestral roots. Some of the information that I have about where I come from isn't super reliable because of racism, white supremacy, DNA testing's not actually that reliable in this country and is kind of used to criminalize people, honestly. What I've narrowed down is that I'm most likely a West African person. And what I have kind of learned through my own exploration is that whether or not I find a bunch of people who make art the way that I make art or feel the way that I do about my ideas, I am part of the world. I was made out of the fabric of the universe. All of these things that feel caging, that confuse me about what my process is about, and who cares about me and whether or not my ideas are valid, those things are mostly imaginary if I if I get into a space where I just like get to create for creating's sake. And when I feel really good and I'm making art that I care about, the people who I want around me as a community will always find me. I'm meeting so many more Black people now that I'm making art about the parts of Blackness that inspire me and not the parts of Blackness that have been historically marketable, worth paying for, supposedly, in somebody's worldview. Um, and yeah, whether or not like you find identity through art or if you have the name and the address of a group of really cool people who are making art about you, yeah, you should just make it anyway. Just make the art anyway. So that has been really, really exciting and freeing for me, that I can create my own community, that I can always build on what I like most about myself, and inspire what I like to see in my friends and my family, and them like continue to make things, and we build on, like, I guess what I'm saying is a community can build a vocabulary of images that are meaningful. And that's kind of why people thought that hieroglyphics and things were so interesting, because it was a language that they were decoding. Sort of a language, sort of a language, and then also sort of a love note. Like, these are my people. This is what we've been practicing together. This is what makes us the most excited and the most happy. And we just put it here. And I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to wait until other people find it, and hopefully they also enjoy to look at it. So, yeah.
I love hearing that. I think that it's like, I'm so happy that you're like building like the community that you want and your people are coming like in your direction. That's the thing that's like super exciting about creating art, is that like it's a way of communicating, right? And it's a way of connecting. Um and like something that I really truly believe in is that like the reason why in our society and in societies around the world, we have so much like violence and oppression and just like all the things that are harming humans in the earth, um, is because we feel disconnected and because we're actually set up to be more and more disconnected, right? And so when we find ways to actually connect with ourselves and our mind and our creativity and our ancestors, and also to like other people who are not ourselves, like that is a complete contradiction to like the pain and the harm and the oppression that's happening in the world. And it's actually like there's so much that's set up um, that makes it so that we should like people are scared to make art. People think that they can't. People think that they like the idea of making a zine can feel really overwhelming because there's like responsibility and like what if people don't like it? And so that's like I think both of us were sharing like just like create, just like make, just make, just make. And then the more you make and like you can play with these ideas and then you can we need to like really start using I think um, our our like inherent creativity and imagination to think about what kind of world we want, right? Because we live in a world that is controlled by very very rich people, and um and all the politicians and all of the police and everyone like their jobs ultimately are being used to support the ruling class, like the most richest of the rich people, right? And like we as people who aren't those people, and most people are not, some people get confused and think they are, but they're not. um, like we get disconnected, right? And so like using our imagination is so important and being able to create and like really thinking about what we want in the world, you know, is super important, I think.
We have a couple of questions that it took me some
Cool.
time to
Yeah,
see.
let's check them out.
So, where does your inspiration come from? I'm not sure who that's to, but we definitely been talking about it. In just a couple of words, I guess I would say I'm gonna be honest. I a lot of my inspiration comes from anime, and it's partially because I am an adult with autism, and I like am so passionately moved, so overstimulated sometimes by descriptions, but I'm also having so much more fun when the descriptions of things are over the top and when the sound design is over the top. And like television does it for me. I guess it's cool and it's fun. But there's something about seeing like a 7,000 foot tall robot that is extra exciting for me. And I like to be able to put larger than life images, sounds, textures, and feelings into my work. So that's kind of me.
Awesome. I think like for me, you know, I one of the things that I've been doing since I was younger is just journaling. And so like I use journals like I like this is a journal that I made. And I really like this. I don't know like this style of journal. I don't know what it's called, but uh I think journaling is something that is a place for me to like when I notice something that I like or a thought comes into my mind, I can like put it in the journal. And then that's where like I can create from there, you know, and just like looking around and being around people. I think it's super inspiring. Um, yeah, yeah. Let's see some of these other questions.
We do, so sorry to pop in and interrupt, but we are actually right at time. So I know that we haven't gotten to, there have been some great questions. We haven't gotten to all of them. But we did share the Instagram accounts and ways to follow both Amanda and RJ online in the chat. So I'm really sorry if we didn't get to your question, but I just want to really thank Amanda and RJ for such an amazing conversation. I know probably we all could have stayed here and listened to you for 3 more hours, but we do have 2 more panels coming up. So we do need to move on. We have a couple of reminders before we do that. And it's also just been amazing to see what's happening in the chat as well. People have had some really, and I hope that the artists have been able to see some of that because there's some great discussion happening in there. So just a quick reminder here, just share this, that if you are inspired from RJ and Amanda's work and want to make your own zine or have already made zines, you can contribute them to the Sonoma County Library Archive. So that can be done either digitally or physically. The information is here, and we'll also drop the links into the chat for you to visit the website as well. And then we also encourage you to check out our Artist Alley video on YouTube to see more from other amazing zine makers and artists. And this is on the Sonoma County Library YouTube channel, and we'll drop the link in for that as well. And then if you are registered for the next session with Maya Kobev and Tessa Holes, if you can please log into that in just a few minutes. And if you are not registered, but you are now realizing that that is a terrible mistake, we are also including the Zoom link and password in the chat for the next session so that you can join us even if you're not registered. And real quick, we have just a minute or so. Chelsea is going to show us a little bit of Maya and Tessa's work just to give you a little teaser.
Hi, everyone. That was incredibly beautiful, and we are super excited for you all to stick with us, hopefully for the next session. This is going to be a conversation between Maya Kobabe. If you look at me in the corner, I'm holding up our book, Genderqueer. Maya Kobabe is from Sonoma County and also made this pamphlet for Positive Images. And recently, Maya started sharing kind of like political informative zines on Instagram, which is what you're looking at right now. This tells you how to tune into city council meetings. So this is our work, a page from Genderqueer, which was recently translated into Spanish and has been a bestseller since it came out. It's a graphic memoir. I had this fantasy of Maya talking to Tessa Holes, who is a Seattle-based artist. Both of them are working on long-form projects, and they also do these kind of urgent political zines released digitally. So Tessa in Seattle lives in Capitol Hill, which became CHOP, and she started reporting on CHOP through this, which went viral, and that led to having a large platform, which she's been using to do these just like really dense and really beautiful educational pieces, like what you're looking at now. They're going to talk about self-care together and how to balance like creating these long form and short form kind of quick turnaround projects and managing time. So please stick around with us for the next one.
All right, thank you so much everyone for attending, and thank you again RJ and Amanda for an amazing conversation.